Okay, you're very welcome to the celebration of 1 year to go for the Paralympic Games. Today we're going to focus on para swimming, so I'm delighted to be joined by our para swimmer, Johnny McGrath, and our head of Paralympic swimming, Hayley Burke. Guys are very welcome. It's a very unusual time. We really should be in Tokyo. So, Johnny, I'm going to ask you, what are your thoughts on, first of all, a year to go? And what does it mean to you in your preparation, considering that you really, if all things had gone well, you'd be competing in Tokyo in the next couple of days?
To be honest, it's a bit different for myself. Last year wasn't going to plan competition wise. I was swimming quite well in training, all things considered, but anytime I'd step up and race, it just wasn't happening. So I think, to be honest, I don't think I was going to qualify for Tokyo, unfortunately. So I got myself, well, COVID has given me another year to train and try and work on a few things, try and get a bit stronger, work on a few technical things. So that's kind of what I done during lockdown. Got to work in gym, had my own gym program and everything. So kind of back now, feeling the benefits of that already. So it's good now of another year to knuckle down and try and get that qualifying time so I can get myself to Tokyo.
It's an unusual thing to be saying at a difficult time like this, but the COVID outbreak has its advantages then for you, Johnny, in that you definitely seem to be more positive right now about your chances of going to Tokyo.
Yeah, like I know. Obviously, COVID was it's not good. It's not good, obviously, but I'm trying to take the positive out of it. That things I think things can only get better for me. Kind of things have changed a small bit in training. We're working on more of so at the minute I'll have 2 gym sessions and I have 3 smaller gym sessions, and I think that's kind of helped with my body composition and my body shape. So I think working on things a bit different and see, can I perform now next year when I need to.
Hayley, hearing Johnny talk about using the opportunity to make those changes, to work on his body, to work on his swimming in general, what kind of opportunities has the lockdown presented to swimmers? Obviously, the swimming pool has been of very limited availability until quite recently. So what have you been able to do to make the best of this situation?
Yeah, hi Derek. I suppose for us, the swimmers do 95% of their training in the pool normal weeks, but with lockdown, obviously they had to do more on land. So it gave them an opportunity to work on some areas of weaknesses, areas that they needed to prehab, and in some cases even rehab. It just, especially at the beginning of at the beginning of lockdown, a lot of the athletes kind of set out their goals of what they could achieve in lockdown. And at that stage, we were dealing with a period of time that we didn't know where the end was. So they set out the things that they can work on and things that sometimes go on the back burner in normal weeks. So like I said, a lot of people worked on weaknesses within their program, and for Johnny, like Johnny really focused in on a couple of areas. Like I know he heavily tapped into nutrition and things like that, and worked on body composition. And like Johnny said, I think he's gained time here, and not just because there's an extra year, but because he's been able to look at elements of his program that he has not focused on before and is now enhanced them. So now when he's back in the water, you can see the benefits of it. So there's a few things that we could do, and being water-based athletes and then not having access to water really presented its challenges. So you just have to make the best of it.
When somebody like Johnny, who is like all athletes, is dying to train and to compete and to be improving themselves at all times, is there a danger for you when you're working with the athletes that when the pools reopen, that they literally throw themselves into it and work too hard and maybe do more damage? And how do you manage that situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, this was the biggest challenge, and we linked in with coaches all over the world throughout lockdown, and I suppose nothing like this has ever happened before. Swimmers have never been out of the water more than a couple of weeks at a time. And normally when they're out for a couple of weeks, it's either to a scheduled rest, injury or illness. Like they're the only three reasons really why a swimmer would be out of the water. So it's unknown territory, and I suppose it's still unknown territory. And the only thing that we could do, and the best thing to do, was just to take it really easy. You know, we went back very slow and very steady. Started off with low duration of sessions, and built up the duration, then built up the intensity. You know, we just had to heavily tap into sports science and just make sure that we were being really, really cautious. And I suppose that the biggest challenge when we came back was the new procedures and protocols around, you know, social distancing and all the protective measures that the government have outlined for us. So getting used to that was a whole other challenge. And then the training, not that it was secondary, but it almost was. In those first few weeks when we were coming into, you know, facilities for the first time, and, you know, all these new you know, getting your temperature checked, washing your hands, staying apart, not touching things, just things like that, trying to get used to it. So then the training on top of that, you just have to apply the same kind of logic, and that's just taking precaution all the time. So we very slowly came back into training, and thankfully we've had no illnesses or injuries since we've come back with the team. And like Johnny, like some of them are training really well now, and, you know, Johnny feels better in the water than even I know he'll tell you himself, but he claims that he feels better in the water now than he even did before COVID. So yeah, I suppose just unknown territory, and we're still in it. You know, we're only back since the 8th of June. So, you know, we're only back about the guts of 3 months, and in swimming terms, that's still really, really new. You know, we still have a long way to go, and we have another year now to the games. So,
Johnny, when you got back into the pool, did you find it unusual to be back? Did you have to, as kind of Hayley was explaining there, did you have to rein it yourself in a small bit to not get overexcited about being back in a pool for the first time in 2 or 3 months? How did you deal with that first day back?
I think I was in quite good shape coming back. Like my program with the National Centre Limerick had set out a program for me. So I had gym sessions, I had core sessions, I had rows and cycles and stuff like that. So I was in pretty good shape before coming back. But it is a different fitness when you get into the pool. You have a different breathing pattern. It's just not the same. So I kind of, you start off, and then I remember after about 2 or 3 sessions, I was talking to one of the lads, Patrick Flanagan, and we were like, "Oh, we are so fit, we're back," but like we weren't. You know, it does take time. It does take time. I'm still probably not even back to. Well, I feel I'm back to maybe full fitness, but that's only a building block. You need to build speed on top of that, and kind of just speed is a bit lacking at this stage, but that's all part of it, you know, that you just have to build all that again.
Hayley, in terms of that training that Johnny is speaking about, you know, you missed so long in the pool. It's quite unknown, I suppose, for you guys, you know, what the future looks like. But in general, you train in blocks and you taper up and you have all of that. So what does the ideal situation look like from now on towards the games? Like when should Johnny and the other swimmers be peaking?
Yeah, I suppose that was the strange part about the timing, was that we came back in June, and normally your kind of macro from June through to August, when we would have been peaking for the games, that's the bit where you do all the speed work, you know, and you build on the fitness that you would have built up since the start of the season. So that's what's been difficult to kind of figure out, is that we're coming back into training, and what the work you would normally do in the first kind of macro is, that's what we're doing now, which is in a period of time where we would normally be, you know, sprinting and going fast and did speed work. So yeah, these couple of weeks have been kind of managing or maintaining, just getting back in, a feel for the water, and getting back that fitness that Johnny's describing. And we're going to take a short break for actually during the time where the games is on. So, just a bit of headspace and just rest the body down, because we have another 12 months to go. So they'll come back in September, and hoping to just pick up where we normally would be in September. So just that kind of slow maintenance work to begin with in September. But yeah, like I mentioned, it's unknown territory. We're really figuring this out as we go, and we've put great plans in place on how to come back, and so far they've worked. So we've just got to trust ourselves, trust that what we're doing is the right thing, and I'm sure it'll all come together. We have another, like I said, we have another 12 months to go. In swimming terms, that's a full season. Our seasons are normally about 11 and a half months long anyway. We're trying to get back on track now after this short break. So,
Johnny, for you, I think maybe you spoke about and having conversations with Patrick Flanagan, who'd be one of your Team Ireland teammates. Have you guys as a team been in touch throughout this whole lockdown period? And, does it help to have people like that to lean on? And what kind of conversations are you having during lockdown?
Well, during lockdown, I had a very good support network. So once a week, Paralympics Ireland would have had a Zoom call, and it was just to check in how everyone was getting on, just a quick chat. Maybe it was only half an hour, maybe there wasn't really much to be said, but it was just nice to see if your familiar faces, because we're all going through the same thing, so that was nice. Then myself and a few of the lads from the para swim team, we go on, play PlayStation in the evenings, just have a bit of chill time, after, like, during lockdown we were still training, you were still tired, so it was nice to have a bit of time to switch off. During I would have had some longer cycles as well. I would have hopped on with 2 or 3 para swim teammates as well, so we'd still get the work in, but there was a bit of a social aspect to it. And there was also some gym sessions with the National Centre Limerick guys that I would have hopped on with, and we'd all just have a big Zoom call, and we'd all get through it together because we are a team as well. And then there was even some sessions that I would have just done with 1 or 2 friends, that we'd have music on the background and we'd get through a session. But again, we went through it together. We had a bit of a laugh. It was a nice social aspect. I just felt during lockdown that I had such support behind me, which was very good. I linked in with nutritionists, physios. Like there really wasn't a day that I wasn't linking in with someone for some bit of help during that time. So it was good.
So really, Zoom has been a huge part of yours and everyone else's life over the last 6 months or so. Did you ever think you would have to rely on a piece of technology like that so heavily?
No, especially swimming, that it's like technology does not really work, not exactly, phones aren't exactly waterproof, so I didn't think we'd ever need it, but it did help. It did work, that coming back, meeting everyone again, that I don't feel that I've missed out on so much, because I've seen them, I've talked to them, it's good.
And Hayley, that kind of unforeseen use of technology, it must have presented challenges and opportunities for the likes of yourself to figure out how do we best use the applications like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Skype or whatever it is. Like, how have you innovated throughout this time to keep people like Johnny interested and at a high level of performance?
Yeah, well, I suppose when the lockdown first came in, and we were booted out of the pools, they all closed. We really did think to ourselves, how are we gonna bring them all together? Because, like Johnny mentioned, like phones aren't waterproof. We're not used to technology with our training, like this level of technology and communication. So initially we said, we need to link them in weekly. Especially the lockdown came in March, and we were really hyping up at that stage with our program. You know, we had a number of competitions lined up and camps lined up, and we were going to have a huge amount of contact time in the lead into Tokyo, and then suddenly that just all dissipated. And I suppose we were a bit concerned at the start, and because the nature of the different range of disabilities, it was quite challenging to bring them all together to do one form of exercise. You know, you can't stick them all on a bike if people don't have lower limb mobility. So, you know, they all had to have bespoke training programs to be able to manage their capability at the time. So to bring them all together and do, you know, one big gym session was a challenge. So initially we were linking in weekly, but more for information. You know, at that stage the games hadn't been postponed at that stage. We thought it might be still going ahead, and we had other considerations with other competitions that might happen. So at the beginning it was an information kind of forum, and then when we were told the games were postponed, we decided, you know, we still need to link in here. So we ran a number of workshops with each of the sports science service providers from the institute. So they were excellent, and they came in and they gave their time for the guys. And we also just linked in and just caught up with people, like Johnny said, just, you know, how are you getting on? And it was a little bit of a support network, you know, and you know, people were really being honest, and some people struggled on certain weeks. Some of them at the beginning were delighted that the slow pace of life had come in, you know, in a time when we were really, really hyping up and getting ready for competition. Suddenly they had time on their hands, you know, they were at home, they could rest, and you know, there was that little bit of relief, like, oh, it's nice to, you know, not be so high pressured. But then that anxiety kind of set in a little bit as well. So people had ups and downs, and kind of going through that as a team was just different. You know, it's a different level of you know, anxiety that we went through, because we deal with that as a team all the time. You know, we go to major championships where emotions are high and people are under pressure to perform and things like that, and we pull together as a team. So this was just, it was the same but different, you know, it was just a different circumstance, and we were in 2 dimension, I suppose, going through it. So yeah.
So lockdown, in broadly speaking, is coming to an end. There's obviously different levels of what people in certain areas are able to do and not to do, but we're starting to be able to look forward. And when you look forward, the main date again is August the 24th, 2021, when it's back to Tokyo. But we also have some clarity now on the other events that will lead up to Tokyo. So it was just announced that the World Para Swimming European Open Championships will take place next year in Portugal from May 16th to the 22nd. Johnny, how good is it to have at least another date to focus on closer to now than the Paralympic Games? And how important will that event be to you in your aim of getting to Tokyo?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm racing this weekend in Limerick, so that's kind of like, I know I'm not like fully rested or fully tapered or anything, but it's kind of just an opportunity to set down a marker, and that's kind of what I'm focusing at the minute. But yeah, I did see Europeans was announced earlier this week, so I've raced in that pool before. Unfortunately, it was to qualify for Rio 2016, and I didn't make it. So it'd be nice to go back and qualify this time, you know. But yeah, I think even if performances were to go well, there could be a medal in it for me too. So it would be very nice to go there, you know.
Is that an extra motivation, to an opportunity to go there and put that right?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I remember coming out of the pool in 2016, buckets of tears, texting my parents, texting family members, because at that time I felt that I let people down, but I didn't really. I gave everything I could have, you know. But it would be nice to go back there and, you know, prove a point to myself that I should be at Tokyo 2021, and it would be nice to pick up my first international medal at I'd be 28 then, you know, so it would be nice, yeah.
Hayley, that must be in your role. That must be quite difficult at times. Is that you see the highs and you see the lows. And Johnny described the low there of unfortunately missing out of Rio. And you're often the first person that an athlete will see, whether they're after doing something very good or suffering disappointment. That how do you deal with those different peaks and troughs of emotion at the time?
Good question. Still trying to figure that out, but you know, I've worked with Johnny now since 2011, so we've, you know, you learn athletes, you start to understand athletes, and sometimes that takes years. You know, that's not an overnight thing. So you kind of learn with each of the athletes. Some of them want to be left alone. Some of them need to be, you know, a debrief straight away, and you know, you said I'm the first person. Sometimes I'm the last person they see, because there's like a number of staff members that they go through, and sometimes I'm the last person. I'm the manager, so I'm normally, you know, chasing the team down, making sure they're all on the bus, that kind of stuff. So yeah, sometimes by the time they get to me, they've had a range of emotions, and they're actually able to, you know, come to me and say, this is what went wrong, and then, you know, this is what I'm going to do about it. So normally sometimes by the time they get to me, they're able to really understand and say it to me straight away, like, you know, what they need to change. But yeah, sometimes you do be the first person for them to see after a bad swim. But then, you know, the other side of it is sometimes you get to be there when they're elated, you know, and that's nice too. It's nice to be around that. So yeah, you have to adapt with each of the athletes. They're all different. And some of them are still trying to figure out what works best for them, you know. So yeah, I think we understand Johnny now at this stage. I think we've been with Johnny long enough, and you know, he's had hard times, and I remember that swim in Madeira and in 2016, and that was really hard, because I think more so than anything was the team wanted him there. You know, the team were really behind him, and the team were really looking forward for him to be, you know, there in Rio with them. So it was hard in the team. You know, it wasn't just Johnny that day. It was the whole team, you know, and I do think we are that kind of a tight-knit team that when somebody either really performs really well or maybe underperforms, everyone feels it, you know, everyone, and it's with us. So you know, in World Championships last year in London in 2019, the team came up with their team charter. You know, they came up with these kind of not so much rules, but just kind of guidelines of how they're going to interact with one another. And you know, they all agreed that if somebody has a bad swim, that they'll all rally around them and then they move on, and that's that. And we don't carry it. You know, we don't carry bad swims and things like that. And yeah, like, but it's taken years to get there. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't overnight, and that took it took the athletes to come to that decision themselves. That wasn't led by staff, you know. So yeah, we're constantly evolving as a team. I think we've gotten to a point now when we get highs and lows that we deal with them quite well. And yeah, the game's being postponed, that's a whole other challenge, you know. And yeah, we're just going to rally around one another, and like that, we're just going to move on from it, you know. The next challenge, that's it, we just face it.
Johnny, you've been in the program since 2011, I think Hayley said there. You've experienced an awful lot during that time, highs and lows, but you have matured a lot as a swimmer. How would you place yourself in your current mindset? How do you feel you compare now to previous times in your career?
I would have started swimming 2009 was my first European Championships. Kind of came along, didn't really have a clue, to be honest, what was going on. It was day by day, didn't have a notion, had no plans, you know. And to be honest, if I'm being honest, as I was 17, 18 when I arrived on this team. I was quite immature. I've made a lot of mistakes, you know, but I do feel I've learned from my mistakes, that, to be honest, probably really only developing into a performance, probably athlete maybe in the last year or so. It's taken that long. I've been a bit of a slow burner, but I think that a lot of that is probably down to my personality, that I like to have a joke, and sometimes I just say things that smidgen too far, you know. But I've learned from that, and I think it's really all just now. This year is all just about performances that I just need to I need to step up myself and be counted, you know.
Do you find that you have maybe a greater leadership role within the group, considering your experience and seeing maybe some youngsters come through the ranks that are going through times that you have experienced in the past?
Yeah, like I would be able to relate to a lot of people's downs and lows, you know, that. So like I would feel that if someone wanted to talk to me about if they had a poor performance and had to group, I've had to do that a lot. So I think one athlete has come to me before. I won't mention names, and we've had a little discussion and what I'd done to regroup after Europeans in Dublin, that I had a bit of a mishap, and I had to pick myself up and swim and make a final in an event that I'm not accustomed to doing, but I had to regroup very, very quickly and get on with it. And I basically had a discussion with that athlete that what you have to do, you just have to clear your head and move on. And that event is now, that event has happened, but it has no great significance of what is to come, you know. So yeah, that's it really.
You mentioned you're swimming this weekend. Do you have a few of these swims planned over the next few weeks and months?
So we're finishing up on Friday for a 2-week break. So just racing Thursday and Friday, gonna go 400 free to 100 IM and do the 400 free again. I'm not going to say I'm going to be posting amazing times or anything, but it'd be nice to have a head out, try a few different things. I'm working on my breathing pattern, so I'm switching to breathing every 3 instead of every 4, so I get more oxygen into my body, and in theory I won't blow up in that middle 200. So just try a few things out and have a bit of fun. At this minute, I feel we've been back swimming in National Centre Limerick for about 5 to 6 weeks, and because like there is, I know the goal is there, Tokyo 2020, the goal is there, but everything else is kind of just up in the air. So we all go training, we all give everything 100%, but it seems to be a bit more fun, you know. There's a bit more crack amongst the lads, because it's probably because there isn't as much pressure around things at the minute, that coaches are having a bit of fun with us. We're trying new things. It's quite good at the minute. I feel that the National Centre Limerick and probably the guys up in Dublin, National Centre Dublin, and the para performance swimmers up in Dublin and all around, that I think everything seems to be in a better place. You know, that we've all had our little time to regroup. There's no pressure on at the minute, and I think everyone seems to be in a good place. Everyone that I've talked to, anyways.
That's great to hear, Hayley. How important is it that the guys like Johnny maintain that mindset for the next few weeks and months while we're waiting for the calendar to fill out?
Yeah, so important. I suppose there's no point in getting worked up about things that are outside our control. And, you know, any athlete in a performance setting will know you can only control what you can control. You can't worry about other things. And, you know, we've just really emphasized to keep it light, and just, you know, we're working on things that we don't normally work on in a season, you know, especially a season that you'd be building up to a games like this. So yeah, just keeping it lighthearted and keeping people in good spirits, and yeah, we'll just take it as it comes. We'll take each punch, you know, and
then take the break that Johnny and the guys have coming to them, and when the time comes, it's back, and it's serious times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. big time.